Hi, hello, and welcome to yet another Expat, the podcast of your heart. How are you doing? I hope you're doing great. I hope you're enjoying the sun. I hope you don't hate me for missing 1 week last week. But here I am today. Last week, I was a guest to a podcast of someone I know, which is going to air sometime in December because he's much better than me and he's pre-recording all of the episodes. So this thing that happened to you, where you feel let down by me, doesn't happen to his listeners. But more about his podcast and my appearance there in the next episodes. I will be dropping hints here and there. But if you want to listen to 1+ hour of myself talking, not only about the podcast, but about life and also about work. I don't talk about work here. You will have the chance in December. So hang in there. But until that time comes, this time now has come. And it's the time where I tell you all sorts of great news, stories, thoughts coming from Berlin, the world, the space, and the cosmos. So let's get it started. It's been quite a busy 2 weeks. In the episode 2 weeks ago, I was reporting on drones that appeared in Poland and in Romania. And at the time, everyone was like, no, these drones are a mistake. They were flying over Ukraine and then they got a bit lost. But now we have drones flying over major airports. Denmark has closed down its airspace. Poland actually shut down a few. And overall, this is the new thing now. Drones are hovering over countries, and apparently we don't really have a very good way of spotting or stopping or taking down drones. So this is something that Europe now has to think about. Where are these drones coming from? No one can say for sure. But this is not the only disruption airports have been having, because last week there were cyber attacks at airports in Heathrow, in Brussels, in Berlin, in Dublin. And it almost feels like I am a spokesperson. Have you played Cyberpunk, the game? The loading screen always has some sort of futuristic war tech news happening. This feels like it, but these cyber attacks did happen. And the target was an airport passenger processing software. Basically the software that does all the check-ins, and it's software that many different airports are using. So that company was attacked, and then the check-in service collapsed for many airports. This is an interesting type of attack. I guess it counts as a supply chain attack, where if you want to disrupt something, let's say an airport, you don't disrupt the airport itself, you just identify a supply chain of different software services that are linked to it, and then you go and attack those, essentially creating a problem to the airport itself. So that caused a bit of chaos, but one country, one airport was ready for that chaos. You know which one? It was Berlin. Why? Because when the check-in software is down, there's only one way to get those passengers into their planes, and that is old paper and pen. And if there is one place that knows how to do things with paper, that is Germany. So the experts of pen and paper managed to give handwritten boarding passes and check-ins and help people go fly, of course, with delays and all of that. But this is now behind us. The airports seem to be working. But do you know what's still not working? The trains. The trains in Germany are incredibly bad. DB, Deutsche Bahn, the publicly owned company that does everything train related, tried to bring at least one piece of good news by appointing a female CEO, but really it was just a drip in the ocean of bad news and complaints because the train cancellation and delays have reached new highs. And not only that, but here's the most infuriating thing that has been emerging through reporting from Der Spiegel, the German newspaper. apparently Deutsche Bahn found a way to try to improve the punctuality statistics. You know, they need to tell the public how many trains have been punctual, what is the percentage of trains on time, and all of that. And basically, those numbers are what the public sees. And I guess some high-ranking manager people are trying to make sure that these numbers look as good as possible, despite the many, many delays. So, they found, allegedly, a very ingenious way to try and improve the punctuality statistics. And this is, drumroll, to cancel trains. Yes, apparently they have been systematically removing trains from the schedule because in this way they make the on-time performance appear better. So to get this straight, this practice involved cancelling trains without informing the passengers in advance, which led to confusion, frustration. You can imagine how horrible this is, because they don't add the cancelled trains in the punctuality statistics. If the train never happened, then it was never late. And I cannot believe that this is how they tried to fix the problem. This is more Greek than I can imagine. So basically, to help their numbers showing that more trains are on time and are punctual, they have been cancelling completely trains that they will know will have some delay. And when they figured that out, they reached out to DB, who had to acknowledge that the services sometimes prematurely get cancelled, but only when it makes operational sense. So they deny that the company is systematically cancelling trains to manipulate punctuality statistics, but industry experts and critics argue that this approach undermines the trust and the reliability, not only in the rail system, but in the way that they are putting out these statistics as well. So add that to your pile of frustration, and let's hope that the government, who has pledged significant investments to modernize the rail network, will manage to improve punctuality. But again, the once admired efficiency of German trains is currently in the gutter. So perhaps the only way is to go on foot and to go running. And this is what happened last week, where Berlin held the marathon event. People love the marathon. Berlin is one of the marathons with the most participation. But who ran under 3-hour marathon? Harry Styles. I had no idea the guy runs, but apparently he runs fast. So next time you need to go somewhere, if the planes are down and the DB train doesn't work, perhaps you can jump on Harry Styles' back, because running a sub-3 marathon, this is how the nerds are calling marathons that are below 3 hours, is a very, very, very difficult feat. So Harry Styles can not only sing better than me, but run better than me, and you all. Another thing that happened, and I find it interesting, in the crazy, surreal world that is called the US of A, Donald Trump, in his infinite wisdom, decided to remove the famous H-1B visa. It was called the Genius visa, and they didn't fully remove it. I will explain what is happening. This is a visa where someone gifted can go to the US to study or work. It's a visa that has allowed foreign professionals to work in the US in specialty occupations, basically occupations that require a bachelor's degree or higher. It's the way that the US was able to get specialized knowledge. So if you needed highly educated professionals, you could bring them in with this special temporary non-immigrant visa category. This is how a lot of the tech companies and big companies are able to get the best talent. Now, more countries have similar visas like this, and the US has decided for this visa to make it insanely expensive. But here's the thing, all these years, America doesn't have a great education system. It has good universities, but the education system is very, very low. However, they never needed to have exceptionally good education because the brains went to the US. That was their model. Their model was not creating the smart people, Their model was that the smart people will find their way to go to the America. And this visa was one of the ways to enable that. However, the Trump administration has decided that whoever wants a visa like this, the company that sponsors the visa needs to pay on top of the salary $100,000 every year to the government. Now, $100,000 on top is a lot of money. It could be even more money than the annual salary of the person you are trying to hire, which means that tech companies will have to either pay a lot of money or try to find talent internally. Now, the internal talent in the US is, in my opinion, not doing so great. If we look at the engineering sector, do you know how many Americans are pursuing PhDs in engineering right now? 3 out of 4 people doing a PhD in engineering in the US right now are not US citizens. And I know from experience that 1/4 that is US American citizens and are pursuing PhDs in engineering, very often they're trying to get hired outside of the US. And I have experienced an influx of talent leaving the US in the past years. So this is an interesting development there, because in my opinion, they don't have the talent they need. Their ability to produce that talent is taking a hit. And then their ability to borrow that talent, because this is what a visa sponsorship is, you're borrowing basically the talent you need, the competence you're missing, is also taking a big hit. I really don't understand how this is going to help the US become more competitive internally. Someone would say that if they had kept the Department of Education together instead of destroying it overnight and considered investing in their actual educational system as a way to create and nurture that talent all the way from school then into university, that would probably be a better long-term strategy. But who wants to invest in education? Education is boring. War is peace. Freedom is slavery. Ignorance is strength. These are some of the famous slogans of George Orwell's 1984, a book everyone should read and also remember that is written in 1948, trying to predict a version of 1984 within the book. But this is just, an unrelated fact. I was just thinking, who needs education? Who needs nightlife shows or comedy in the TV? Everyone should just keep in line and worship the president and his administration. And as a last thing, if you didn't know now you know, some governmental buildings, in an effort to please their ruler more and more, they are putting giant banners of Donald Trump's face hanging from the buildings. And this is not a joke. Apparently, complimenting the president on the tables or live is not enough. So now they're hanging large photos of President Donald Trump. There is one hanging from the top of the Department of Labor in Washington, D.C., and on 2 other federal buildings. Now, some would say that these carry certain authoritarian undertones that we are seeing in, the Communist Party in China or in 1984. Democrats call it totally inappropriate and a step towards authoritarianism. But Trump seemed extremely happy to see his face in giant banners hanging in Washington, D.C., and of course, all of this is done with taxpayer money, right? The same as the few hundred millions that he's paying to make a new ballroom in Washington next to the White House so he can have his guests filled with gold stuff and all of that. So $50K to make the banners for the Department of Labor, $16K for the Department of Agriculture, and $34K for the Department of Health and Human Services. Let's see if by the end of the presidency he will try to carve his face up in that mountain with Roosevelt and the rest. But maybe there is no skilled 3D carver to create the stone because they can't get the visa to enter the US. But I will start wrapping things up, going from one baby to another. I'll give you an update on baby life. How is baby life going? Well, we're now 8 months in. Congrats. And the food stuff has been starting. So trying out different types of food, making it into mush and then feeding it. The cleaning side of things is intense. We're now dressing the baby with something that looks like a hazmat suit. Then we have a special rug at the bottom. And in the end, I need to take everything in the bathtub and hose it down. But it is going well. Trying to eat something twice a day. Favorite food so far, avocado, tomato, parenthesis, proud of you, boy, pastinaki boiled, and some oats. But I owe that boy a nice bio chicken drumstick with no spices. But I'm waiting for one more tooth to give him that. We are closer to mobility, and you know what I've been thinking? Every single week, or maybe every single day, that single moms are heroes. They are heroes. It's just so many things that need to be done, and so little time for yourself. And we are two people in this, and it's still challenging that I cannot imagine how it is for single moms having to do somehow everything and still make it through. So hug your moms, say thank you, ask them how it was, ask if your dad was helping, how much he was helping, and then don't blame me for anything that comes. It's just an honest question. But do you know what? The worst thing is that it's these people that complain, and they say these lines, oh, ever since these people did kids, we lost them, we lost our friend. And they don't say it for me, but this is something you will hear when someone from a group has a kid. Then the rest will say, oh, ever since the kid, we lost our friend. And I'm thinking, you lost your friend? You egomaniac bastards? Your friends are right there. You complaining, unworthy pieces of flesh. If your friend has a child and you are complaining you lost your friend, get your ass up there. Go visit your friend, and when you do that, how about you take with you a few cooked meals to give to your friend, because this is what friendship is. Just go find your friend. Go have a chit-chat while you help clean the kitchen. Do a catch-up while you hang the clothes. Your friend is right there, just desperate for your friendship, too weak to reach back, too devastated watching the group chat with all of the activities he cannot do. So if you are a real friend, don't complain. Give a warm hug of understanding and a warm hug of soup and cooked vegetables and whatever it is you can make. Was that rant necessary? I don't know. But let's close it off with our space news, because aliens might be the best friends after all. All right, in the previous podcast we talked about the Atlas object, and it is the third confirmed object that enters our solar system from another star, which is wild. Only 3 things we have been managed to confirm that are coming from outside of our solar system. But in any case, 3i Atlas is behaving in ways that astronomers did not expect. We said in the previous episode that it woke up too early. That means that most comets don't become active until they are much closer to the sun, because the sun starts melting the ice that they have on them, then it evaporates and it creates this shine and it creates this tail and all of that. But somehow 3i Atlas started forming this glowing comet and releasing gas while it was still way out past Jupiter. And this was the first unusual thing. They believe that it's made of some sort of unusual ice, not water, but maybe carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide, unlike local comets that have just water ice. Now, the second weird thing is that it looks bigger and heavier than they expected. The newest observations hint that it has more mass than the first two interstellar visitors we've had, meaning its solid core could be unusually dense. The third thing that is weird about it is that its chemistry and colors are odd. So this comet is very rich in CO2 and other exotic gases, which gives it a greenish type of glow, which points to a different mix of materials than what we see in most comets. And now here's the fourth piece of news that came. It seems like a solar outburst. The sun is just bursting out basically plasma in different directions. This is how we get the auroras, I think. But they're called CME, coronal mass ejections. So there was a solar outburst forecast to cross paths with the comet. Now, some media reported this in a very clickbaity title, saying that the plasma beam is going straight at this comet from the sun, like the sun decided to just point out a plasma gun and go pew, 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 which we have no way to know if it is so precise, but it is verified that there is a solar outburst and it is going in the direction of the comet. And now everyone has the telescopes there to see what will happen. The most likely thing to happen from a physics perspective is that the tail could shift or even brighten, and that would be a pretty rare chance to watch an alien comet react to solar plasma. This is what might happen. Some people are speculating that it's like charging from the sun and all sorts of... People believe it's a UFO, basically. I don't believe it's a UFO, but I'm telling you all the things that are strange about it. But why wouldn't it be strange? The cosmos is full of strange things, and we only have seen 2 other interstellar objects so far. So every discovery about the 3I Atlas is a first, maybe teaching us that comets from other systems don't follow the same rules as we know. But there is one place that we may have found the strongest hints of life so far that is not the 3I Atlas comet. And this is on Mars. There are big news from Mars. NASA's Perseverance rover found some rocks that could be showing signs of ancient microbial life. So you can look this up. They found some rocks. They're called mudstones. They're about 3.5 billion years old. And these rocks have tiny spots on them. They have tiny patterns on them that look like the ones that are made by microbes here on Earth. And this is very exciting. And on top of that, they found minerals that on Earth are linked to microbes. So the scientists are super excited, but they say we can't be 100% sure it's life yet, because some of it could have formed without microbes, aka the next step is an extraction. We need to bring these samples back to Earth for a more detailed study, but if it is life, it would be the strongest evidence yet that once upon a time Mars hosted living organisms. When will we know? When are they bringing back things? There is a mission, Mars Sample Return, MSR, and the goal of that is to bring Martian rock samples back to Earth. But it's facing significant delays because some people don't like funding NASA. It was originally planned for the early 2030, but the mission now may not return the samples as late as 2040 due to budget overruns and technical challenges. NASA is considering alternative plans and will decide on a new path forward by mid-2026. In contrast, China's Tianwen-3 mission is on a much faster track. It's scheduled to launch in 2028, collect stuff, and return the samples to Earth by 2031, potentially ahead of NASA's revised timeline. And this is not the only place where China is competing against the US and most likely will win the race. There is also the race to go on the moon again. Yes, this is true. The US is losing the race to the moon. So I'll give you that, and then I'll let you have a nice rest of whatever it is. NASA has the Artemis 3 mission, which aims to land astronauts on the moon. It was initially scheduled for 2025. Do you see any astronauts there? No. It is now delayed to 2027 or possibly later. Why is the delay happening? Well, it's issues that SpaceX, Starship Human Landing System, is facing. It was designed to ferry astronauts from lunar orbit onto the moon's surface. Now, NASA's Aerospace Safety Advisory Panel has warned that this whole thing could take years to build because of the challenges like unproven cryogenic propellant transfer in low Earth orbit. Basically, this thing needs to refuel in low orbit before it continues. And it looks like Elon Musk has overpromised and underdelivered. The test launches are far less than what they should have been. And you've seen them fail, you've seen them explode, you've seen the debris falling back on Earth. And they've also designed an overly complicated system for Artemis 3. And NASA is saying that SpaceX's approach to it is just not stable. They don't think it's going to happen, and the timelines keep getting pushed. Now, on the other side, China is making significant strides towards its own lunar goals. The country plan was to launch a lunar lander before 2030, with the possibility of landing astronauts on the moon ahead of the US. Because China is making steady progress, it has a very well-funded space strategy, and it is in a very strong position to beat the US to the moon. Given all these delays with the SpaceX side of things, NASA is now considering alternative paths and plans to ensure the success of the Artemis program. However, these alternatives are still under review and no final decisions have been made. But who can blame them, NASA, as they are now being run by a guy called San Duffy, who was the US Secretary of Transportation, and I guess Trump thought that space rockets is also a means of transportation and made him NASA's interim administrator. This guy has no experience in space science, no experience in aerospace engineering. He served as a Secretary of Transportation, and basically, he was a reality TV person. This is who's running the show. His nomination followed the withdrawal of tech entrepreneur Jared Isaacman, who had been nominated to lead NASA, but was removed from consideration due to concerns over potential conflicts of interest. So, under Duffy's leadership, or Duffy, I don't even know how to call his name, they're doing changes, they're doing budget cuts, they're doing restructuring. Employees and scientists don't know the future direction of NASA's research and mission priorities. And while this guy is an interim administrator, his lack of experience in space-related fields and the ongoing organizational changes that they're doing around things like diversity and equity and things that don't really are a strategic priority has made the agency have debates about the future of NASA's leadership and overall mission focus. So what's going to happen? At some point they will realize they're losing to China and will try to make things faster. But as they say in marketing, 9 pregnant women can't deliver a baby in 1 month. Let that sink in. I'll say it again. 9 pregnant women cannot deliver a baby in 1 month. I think what we will experience will be the shrinkage and fall of the US in the following years in most of the sectors. They will still be a powerful country, but they will not be a global leader. Okay, this turned a little bit more intense than just a weekly update, but I had a few things collected and now they're out. If you still enjoy hearing this voice, thank you. You've reached the end of this episode, and it is, and I mean it, a huge honor that you are listening to this. I will try to not lose a week from now on, and I'm wishing you a great rest of the day. Until next time, ciao!